Well now, howdy there, young uns. Reckon y'all settlin' and cozy like for a tale that's been floatin' round these parts longer'n a coonhound's shadow at sundown? Let me ask you, where y'all watchin' from tonight? Is the fire crackling warm where you sit, or are y'all curled up under a quilt, shiverin' a mite? By golly, reckon it don't matter none, 'cause tonight we're gonna ride the rails with a feller folks used to call Casey Jones, the fastest, most daring conductor ever to whistle through these hollers. Now hush up now and lend your ears, 'cause this ain't no ordinary story. It's one that'll make your heart skedaddle like a rabbit in a briar patch. Casey, bless his heart, he wasn't like most fellers driven them steam engines. No, sir. He had a grin that'd curl the whiskers on your daddy's chin, and eyes that twinkled like fireflies dancing over the cotton fields. Folks round town used to say, "There goes Casey, ridden the rails like the wind done got itself a mind." Lordy, I tell ya, he loved that engine more'n a hound loves a bone. Y'all can picture it, can't ya? That iron monster huffin' and puffin', steam hissing, wheels a-rollin' faster'n a jackrabbit runnin' from a hawk. And Casey, he'd sit up there in that cab like he was born with coal dust in his veins. Now, let me tell you about the day young Billy Thompson come a-running up the hill, out of breath like he'd been chassin' the devil himself. Mr. Jones, he hollered, flappin' his hands like a turkey in a spring storm. You gotta hear this. Folks on the train, they don't know what's comin'. Casey, he tilted his hat back, scratched that stubbly chin of his, and let out a chuckle that rumbled deep in his chest. Well now, Billy, don't you go frettin'. Your worryin' makes the tea boil over faster'n it oughta. Let old Casey handle it, sure as shootin'. The kids huddled closer round the fire, their eyes wide as saucers. Little Susie May whispered, "Do you reckon he's really that brave?" I winked at her and said, "Bless your heart, darlin'. Casey didn't just act brave, he was brave. The kind of feller who'd take the heat so's nobody else got burned." They gasped, and I swear the youngest, Tommy, clutched his blanket tighter, shiverin' though it weren't cold. You see, Casey had this way of talkin' to folks that made them feel safe, even when things looked all plumb terrifying. "Now, y'all listen here," he'd say, runnin' a hand along the polished lever. "Ain't no need to holler or fuss. This OL engine and me, we'll get you through smooth as butter on a biscuit, and wouldn't you know, the passengers, jittery as cats in a rainstorm, would settle down a mite, peekin' out the windows at the world rollin' past, like a dream painted in dust-colored strokes." Casey had a gift for seeing folks' fears and turnin' them into a kind o' quiet wonder, the kind of awe that makes you hold your horses and watch the sky change its mind about colors. Now, young uns, let me tell you something about Casey that ain't in no history book. He didn't do it for fame, don't you know. No, he did it for the feel of the tracks beneath him, for the laughter of folks reachin' home safe, and for the promise he made to himself long ago that no soul ridden his train would face danger without him standin' tall. By golly, it made him a legend before the tailies even left the lips of those who watched him roll by, that's for sure. And I reckon, if you close your eyes real tight, you can almost hear that engine a-chuggin' somewhere off yonder, whistle callin' to the brave-hearted, like it's beckoning us to remember *** now. Y'all best settle in closer, 'cause Casey, he weren't no ordinary conductor, nah sir. He had this way of knowing the tracks like the back of his hand. Every twist, every dip, every mischievous curve that tried to fool a feller. Kids round the depot used to watch him polish that engine, talking to it like it was a hound dog he'd raised from a pup. "Hold your horses now, she's feeling ornery today," he'd mutter, running his hands along the cold metal, and by golly, that engine seemed to answer back with a hiss and a puff, like it understood every word. Little Mary Beth giggled behind her mama's skirts, whispering, "Do trains really understand him?" And I winked at her, saying, "Lordy, darlin', in Casey's world they sure as shootin' do." One evening, sun droppin' low, like molasses drippin' slow, Casey was checking the cars before a night run. Folks had their lanterns swayin', shinin' soft and golden across the wooden platform. He spotted a feller fumbling with his ticket, lookin' all flustered. "Now don't you fret none, stranger," Casey drawled, tip o' his hat liftin'. "We got plenty o' time. Ain't no need to have your britches in a bunch." That feller, he relaxed, laughing nervously, and even the conductor's own crew let out a chuckle. Casey had that sorta presence, like a warm hearth in a blustery winter storm. The night was thick, like stew left simmerin' too long. Stars peeked shy-like through the clouds, and the whistle of the engine sang a lonely tune across the holler. Young uns, you ever notice how the night smells different when a train rolls by? Casey sure did. He'd close his eyes a sec, take in that mix of coal smoke and pine-scented breeze, and you could see him smiling inside, thinking about all the folks countin' on him to get him home safe. "We ain't got much time to dawdle," he muttered to his fireman, a young un named Jimmy, who looked up to Casey like he was seeing an angel. "Keep your eyes peeled and hold steady now." Jimmy, bless him, nodded, hands clutching the levers like a feller clutching hope itself. "Yes, sir," he called, all wide-eyed and jittery. And Casey, he just laughed, a low rumble that made the wooden beams of the depot shake a mite. "Don't you worry none, Jimmy boy. You'll learn soon enough that a steady hand and a brave heart get ye through more than any fancy gadget ever could." As the train rolled out, clickety-clackin' over the rails, folks inside leaned from the windows, eyes sparkly and hearts a-jumpin'. They could feel Casey's spirit in the very wheels turnin', a sort of quiet courage that wrapped round him warmer than a quilt in January. And I reckon if y'all listen real close tonight, you might hear that faint whistle callin', reminding us that some folks are born to carry more'n their own weight. And Casey, by golly, was one of 'em. Asterisk now. Young uns, y'all listen close, 'cause Casey, he had a way o' meeting trouble head on, never backing down, not even a mite. One night, running along a stretch where the tracks snaked through a narrow canyon, Jimmy leaned over and whispered, "Mr. Jones, reckon we can make it through that bend safe?" Casey gave that grin, full of mischief and courage, and said, "Hold your horses, Jimmy. Ain't no bend too sharp for O.L. Casey and this here engine. We'll slide through smoother'n a greased pig at a county fair." The young'uns by the fire giggled, imagining the fellers slidin' and laughing like he was dancing with the moon. The wind picked up then, how-like through the trees, and Casey, he squinted into the night, eyes sharp as a hawk's. "See that, Jimmy?" he said, pointing down the tracks, where the rails glinted silver in the starlight. "That's where a lot o' folks might let fear take the reins, but not us. We got grit, we got pluck, and we got this here engine that knows my touch." Jimmy swallowed hard. Grip tightened, but Casey's call made it stick like syrup, easy and sure. Now, some of the passengers, they were restless, whispering about strange shadows by the canyon walls. Casey leaned out a mite, shouting in that friendly drawl, oh his, "Ain't no need to clutch your pearls, folks. Just a little night magic from the hills, that's all. You keep your wits about you, and we'll have you home afore the rooster crows thrice." Lordy, the passengers chuckled, some with nervous shakes, but the kids, they were enchanted, peeking wide-eyed from behind curtains, imagining the rails glittering like silver ribbons. He had this way talking that made folks feel like kin, like you'd been sitting on that porch with him your whole life. "Casey," a little girl piped up, "do you ever get scared?" He looked down, eyes soft as moss, and said, "Bless your heart, darling. I reckon a feller gets scared once in a while. Ain't nothing wrong with it. But courage ain't about not feeling fear. It's 'bout standing tall when the fear comes knocking on your door." The children nodded slow like, some gasping, some whispering. Lordy, and I swear it made the fire burn warmer just hearing it dot. By the time they crested a ridge, Casey's engine was singing a steady tune, wheels humming in harmony with the night. He leaned back, hat tilted, eyes glinting like stars themselves, and muttered, "This here's what livin' feels like, Jimmy boy. Every tick of these wheels is a heartbeat, every puff o' steam a promise." Jimmy nodded, silent as the forest, feeling a sort of pride that words couldn't wrangle. And the kids, they could almost taste the courage hanging in the air, thick as honey shivering down their spines in the best kind of way. Casey Jones, bless him, he wasn't just ridden a train, he was ridden life itself, full throttle, holding on for every soul counting on him. And by golly, that's the kind of story that sticks in your chest long after the fire's burnt down to embers. Now, young'uns, I gotta tell you about a night that folks still whisper about when the wind rattles the windows just right. Casey, he was running that engine hard, more determined to hound on a scent, down a stretch where the rails curled like a snake in the grass. Jimmy, he was pale as a ghost, eyes wide like saucers, whispering, "Mr. Jones, reckon this stretch is too fast?" Casey tilted his head, grin spread wide, saying, "Naw, Jimmy boy. This engine and me, we've tangoed with faster winds than this. Just keep your wits, and don't you let your nerves wag the dog." The kids by the fire gasped, some clutching their blankets tighter, imagining the wheels spinning and sparks dancing like fireflies gone wild dot as they sped along. Casey kept talking, not just to Jimmy, but to everyone ridden along with M, sharing stories about the towns they'd pass, the farmers who waved from porches, and the coyotes that howled in the hollers. "Y'all see that barn over yonder?" He'd say, pointing through the dark. "Used to be my ma's favorite. She'd paint flowers on the windows till the sun shone right through. That's a sight makes a feller grin even when the night's playin' tricks." Little Susie May whispered to her brother, "Do you reckon he's tellin' the truth?" And I leaned down, whispering back, "Lordy, darlin', every word's soaked in truth, even if it sounds like a dream." Now here's where Casey showed what made him more'n just a fast conductor. Ahead on the tracks, Jimmy spotted something that made his stomach twist like a snake in a basket. "Mr. Jones, there's something up ahead." Casey's eyes narrowed, but that grin never left. "Hold your horses, Jimmy. That's what I'm here for. Y'all sit back and trust all Casey. Ain't no shadow on these rails gonna outsmart us." He leaned forward, fingers dancing over the levers, reading the tracks like a fiddle player reads sheet music. The passengers, some clutching hats, others clutching hands, felt Casey's calm seeping into their bones. Even the night seemed to listen, wind whispering soft like through the treetops. "Reckon it ain't the first tricky bit of track we've seen, right, Jimmy?" Casey said, chuckling. "Used to be we'd fret over each bend, but now we dance with them smooth as molasses dripping slow." And wouldn't you know, the kids huddled together, imagining Casey dancing with the rails, laughing as sparks flew like dandelion seeds in the breeze dot by the time they cleared that stretch. The moon peeked shy-like over the hills, painting silver streaks on the engine. Casey leaned back, tip-o his hat low, eyes glinting with that quiet pride. "See, Jimmy boy, that's the way it goes. No fear lasts longer'n it oughta, and courage, well, it rides on rails just like we do." Jimmy nodded, silent, but the pride in his chest swelled like a harvest moon. And all the kids, bless 'em, they sat back, imagining themselves ridden right alongside Casey, feeling the thrill and the comfort all at once, shivering with the best kind of wonder. Asterisk now, young uns, let me tell you about Casey's heart, that feller. He had more courage than a fox in a hen house, and more care for folks than a mama bear watching her cubs. That night, as the engine huffed and puffed like it had a soul of its own, Casey leaned close to Jimmy, eyes glinting in the lantern light. "Jimmy boy," he said, voice low and steady, "every soul on this train, they're counting on us. Ain't just iron and coal moving us, it's trust, too. We gotta honor it." Jimmy, he swallowed hard, nodding, feeling the weight and warmth all at once. The kids by the fire leaned closer, some whispering lordy, as if Casey's words floated through time itself. Now, Casey had this way of checking the engine, talking to it like it was kin. "Steady now, girl. Keep your fire burning bright. We got folks who need us," he muttered, rubbing the brass levers, feeling every shiver and pulse through the steel. Little Mary Beth peeked at me, whispering, "Do trains really understand him?" I smiled, saying, "Bless your heart, darling. In Casey's world they sure as shootin' do." The engine answered with a hiss and a puff, almost like a sigh of agreement, and I swear the fire by the hearth seemed to flicker in rhythm with it. The tracks wound through the hills, dark as a crow's wing, and Casey, he never lost that grin, never lost that steady hand. "Y'all see them stars up yonder?" he said to the passengers, pointing out the windows. "Each one's a promise that we'll make it through, safe as a calf in the barn." Folks leaned out, shivering in excitement and awe, watching the night roll past like velvet. Jimmy felt it too, that quiet magic that made fear shrink down to a whisper, and he knew that no matter what came, Casey had him covered. Then came the bend, sharper'n any they'd faced that night, and Jimmy's heart skipped a beat. "Mr. Jones, it's comin' fast." Casey chuckled, low and full of warmth. "Now, don't you fret none. We've been through bends meaner'n this one and danced through 'em all. Just keep your eyes peeled and your heart steady." The wheels sang, sparks flew, and the passengers held their breath, feeling the thrill mixed with that safe kind of comfort only Casey could give. The young uns gasped, imagining themselves hanging on tight, hearts pounding in rhythm with the train dot as they cleared that stretch. Casey leaned back a mite, tip-o his hat low, eyes glinting in the moonlight. See, Jimmy, it ain't the rails that matter most. It's the heart that drives them, he said, voice soft but strong. Jimmy nodded, silent, feeling a pride bigger'n any hill they'd passed. The kids, bless them, shivered with excitement and awe, imagining themselves ridden along, wrapped in Casey's courage, laughing at the wind and feeling that thrill only the bravest hearts ever know. By golly, that's the kind of ride that sticks with you, long after the fires burned down and the stars faded. And you know, young'uns, Casey Jones, he wasn't just ridden a train, he was ridden life itself, full throttle, heart first, every soul on board safe 'cause he gave it all he had. Asterisk now, young'uns, hold your horses and hush up a mite, 'cause here's where Casey's tale rides high on the rails of legend. That night the moon was hiding behind a veil of clouds, and the stars twinkled shy like, peeking through only now and then. Casey, he leaned forward in the cab, eyes sharp as an eagle's, reading the tracks ahead like a preacher reading scripture. Jimmy sat beside him, hands clammy but steady, heart pounding like a jackhammer in a tin shack. "Mr. Jones," he whispered, voice trembling, "don't you reckon it's risky?" Casey chuckled, that low rumble that made the timbers shiver, and said, "Bless your heart, Jimmy boy, risk's part of the ride, but ain't nothing worth more than the souls ridden with us." The train picked up speed, wheels clicking faster than a rabbit scurrying through the brush, and the passengers leaned close to the windows, some wide-eyed, some clutching hands, all feeling Casey's courage seep into them. "Y'all see that dark stretch up yonder?" Casey said, voice calm as a creek in summer. "Some might let fear rule them there, but we trust the engine, trust each other, and keep our wits about us." Little Susie May whispered, "Do you think he's scared?" I smiled, saying, "Lordy, darlin', even the bravest get scared. But Casey, he rides right through it." Now, as the rails curled through the canyon, Jimmy spotted something strange ahead, something that made his stomach twist. "Mr. Jones, there's a shadow on the tracks." Casey leaned forward, eyes glinting fierce, and muttered, "Hold your horses, Jimmy. We handle it like we handle everything. Steady hands, brave hearts." He adjusted the levers, fingers dancing with skill only a lifetime on the rails could teach, and the engine answered like an old friend, huffing and puffing with purpose. Passengers felt it, too, the quiet strength that Casey radiated, a warmth that made their fear shrink to nothing. They clutched blankets, hats, each other, and still they felt safe, wrapped in the courage of a man who gave every ounce of himself to keep them sound. "See, Jimmy boy," Casey whispered, eyes on the rails, "it ain't the danger that matters most. It's what you do when it shows its face. You give it your all, by golly, every single time." Jimmy nodded, silent, proud beyond words, and the kids by the fire gasped softly, imagining the wind rushing past, the engine singing under Casey's command. The train surged forward, and though the night was dark, full of shadows and unknowns, Casey's calm, brave spirit led every soul safely through. And you know, young'uns, that's why folks remember him, why songs and tales keep his name alive. He wasn't just ridden the rails, he was ridden life itself, head held high, heart full, every passenger safe, 'cause he wouldn't let any fall. The fire crackled low as I looked at the young'uns, shining eyes and all, and I whispered, "That, darlings, is the way a hero rides, steadfast, brave and sure as shooting, unforgettable." By golly, the legend of Casey Jones ain't just about speed or steam or iron. It's about heart. And if y'all listen real close tonight, maybe, just maybe, you'll hear that distant whistle echoing through the hollers, calling us to remember how one brave soul can make a world of difference. Rolling forward, no matter what, fast as the wind and gentle as a lullaby.